Here.
Commissioner Manchella is absent. Commissioner Scott Berman.
Here.
Commissioner Franklin.
Here.
Commissioner Gianyahu.
Here.
Commissioner Gupta is absent. Commissioner Jeff Berman is absent. Commissioner Matei.
Here.
And I'm here. And we do have 6 members, and we do have a quorum. Thank you. First order of business is to approve the minutes from the last meeting, September 5th. Do a motion, move to approve. Do I have a second? Any additions or corrections to the minutes? None? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Minutes have been approved. Thank you very much. There's no old business, so we have a total of, I believe, 5 cases tonight.
Wait, can we introduce Kate?
I'm sorry?
Can we introduce Kate?
Yes, I will. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I will. We have 5 cases tonight. But before I get to the cases, I'd like to introduce, would Kate Patillo, please stand up? This is our new planning manager. Today's her 4th day, so hopefully we won't scare her away tonight. Welcome to the staff, and I'm glad you'll be working with us, and you'll find that our staff is probably one of the best in the state. So, welcome aboard. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so we have 5 cases tonight. Is the petitioner here? Petitioner, please come up. Good evening.
Good evening.
Can I have your name and address and your affiliation with the,
Sure.
anything?
Scott Edwards, 110 Boatwalker Drive, Chicago, Illinois, 60606.
Okay.
I represent the owner.
Okay. Are there members in your party who might be able to give testimony tonight? Or make a presentation? If so, I'd like to have them stand up so I can swear them in.
Well, I think it'll just be me for, and the petitioner, but my team is here as well.
Yes, have your team members please stand up. Okay, please raise your right hands. Do you affirm that the testimony you give tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you? Yes, thank you very much. Please, and is the notice in order for all cases?
Notice is proper and correct for all cases.
Thank you very much. Okay, and please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Kelsey Neal-Nolat. I'm with the law firm of Elrod Friedman. We
Okay.
are zoning and entitlement counsel for the Tinder, or the Tinder and Louie project. I'm here with petitioner Scott Goodwitz, who is on behalf of the Goodwitz family, the property owner, and the property developer of this project site. With us tonight, we have rounding out our team, Andy Coughlin from OKW Architects, and from Erickson Engineering, we have Steve Corcoran leading our traffic team, and Tim Brown, our civil engineer, to talk about stormwater. And we will all be providing testimony tonight. So we are here tonight to discuss.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I intend to maybe hear all 5 cases together, so if you can, summarize all cases in your summary, please.
Absolutely,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Yep. So we are here tonight to discuss the 6.2 acre site at the northeastern corner of Tinder and Louie, or Linder and Toohey, sorry, a property that's been with the Goodwitz family for several decades now. Scott has worked very closely with the village for nearly 5 years, or more than 5 years, to redevelop this property in an appropriate manner. As many of you are probably familiar, just under 2 years ago, the village approved a mixed-use and residential plan development, which, due to the market conditions, unfortunately, was unable to move forward. However, as part of those approvals, the village granted rezoning of the site from the N1 and B3 zoning districts and rezoned it into its current B4 zoning district. The site is a natural continuation of the Village Crossing Shopping Center just south of the property, directly across Toohey Avenue, as well as the retail and service uses directly to the east and the west of the property. The subdivision and site plans that we are proposing tonight will allow us to take that next step in redeveloping the property in a manner that is both mutually beneficial for our client, but also consistent with the village zoning scheme. Scott will provide you with greater detail on the background of the site, and then our design team will walk you through the proposed site plan, the traffic strategies, and stormwater improvements. Before we do, I wanted to offer just a couple comments. First, I want to personally thank your staff at the the Community Development Department for their advice and guidance up to this point. With their support, we were pleased to receive the unanimous recommendation of the Appearance Commission just last month. The applications before you today consist of 7 parts, including 2 additional items of relief that the village staff identified. First is the approval of the subdivision plan, which is really just a consolidation of the site from 6 lots into 4 lots. Second is site plan approval for the plan development as required by section 118-271 of the village code, including the approval to continue the existing uses of the 2 current tenants on the eastern portion of the site. Next is 2 special use permits to allow drive-throughs. The first one to serve a mobile pickup window for Cava, a fast casual Mediterranean restaurant, and one to serve an ATM at the proposed Chase Bank. Next, we are seeking an item of relief to allow parking in the required 25-foot side yard on the property, and then an additional item of relief to allow an additional wall sign on the restaurant building. As you will see, our parking plan far exceeds the parking required by the village code, and specifically in regards to the parking requirements for the Chase Bank. As noted by the staff reports, the parking plan at the Chase exceeds the staff's parking and stacking recommendations. We've carefully read each of the staff reports that will be presented to you here shortly, and we are, after discussion with staff for additional clarification, we are prepared to agree with them as revised. I want to emphasize that we have been a very cooperative and open, responsive to applicant, responsive to village staff's suggestions, and reiterate that this development is entirely privately financed by the applicant. And finally, the site strategies proposed tonight will not only support the development that you see before you, but it will also help prepare and modernize site infrastructure for future development as appropriate and down the line. Our request for zoning relief honors the intent and the spirit of the B4 district and enhances the Toohey Avenue commercial corridor. And you'll see in the proposal that we've satisfied the standards set forth by the zoning code for all of the relief requested. I know that I speak for our entire team in saying that we look forward to further discussions with the village and moving this development forward and make this a development that's a win-win for the community and for the development team. So with that, I will hand it off to Scott and the design team to dive into the details of the proposal, and after which we will be happy to answer any questions that you have. Scott.
Thanks. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for having us. I'll keep my remarks brief. How do I change the slide? I'll just give you a very high-level overview of the site and the direction that we're trying to take it. My family's owned this property, I think, since 1962 or thereabout. It's largely been in the condition that you see it today, and I've been trying to figure out the best way to maximize sort of the appeal and the value both to the village as well as to my family over the last few years. In 22, it made a lot more sense to do a mixed-use project there, about 500 units, 30,000 square feet of retail. We were very pleased to have your support and partnership on that entitlement process. But as Kelsey said, unfortunately, the market conditions did not support that as interest rates rose and inflation obviously went through the roof. So we've come back to you with a more modest proposal, but much easier to execute with a roster of first-class tenants on the western portion of the site for a great retail experience that I think that will obviously be beneficial to the village as well as to your many residents. So what we're presenting right now is sort of the first phase. There's 3 buildings on the site. The eastern building that you see there will remain for the near and midterm. We're going to demolish the building that used to be the old TrueLink fence building on that hard corner, and then once we get going in the next 6 to 12 months, hopefully we'll be coming back to you with a new tenant or tenant roster for the northwest portion of the site. But with that, I will turn it over to the design team, and obviously happy to take any questions if anybody has any questions for me at the moment. Thank you.
Good evening again. I'm Andy Coughlin, principal of OKW Architects, 600 West Jackson, Chicago. Great to be here. Scott already did, I think, a pretty good job of describing the context of the site. You're all familiar with this from earlier project efforts there. So I think I can dive straight into the site plan and what we're proposing. As Scott described, the building on the southwest corner is being demolished, and in its place we're locating two new commercial properties. One is a Chase Bank, the other is a two-tenant retail building occupied by Cava and First Watch, so a Mediterranean fare and primarily breakfast lunch restaurant. The bank is about 3,400 square feet. The two-tenant retail building is about 6,500 square feet. The bank's requested two drive-throughs. They're going to really utilize one and see how the volume, what kind of volume they have, and if they need to expand, they'll expand into two. They're both capable of stacking 4 cars each. The drive-through, the single-lane drive-through for Cava would allow for 5 cars of stacking in it. I think they normally see 2 to 3 car kind of activity at their peaks. In addition to the roughly 4,000 square foot First Watch, there's also a 500 square foot outdoor dining area, patio space on the east side of the building, which is actually great for them in terms of the use. While the other 2 buildings remain, the rest of the site is really being pretty completely redeveloped in terms of landscape, parking, pedestrian circulation in and around it. As you're aware, the access off of Tui is signalized, and Steve and Tim will speak to the improvements that are happening with that signal. We've added parking on the east side of the tile store building, the 64,000 foot overall building that's a multi-tenant space, a multi-tenant building. We're added parking there to help to bolster the parking demands for the new uses, and ultimately in anticipation of some alternative uses that would eventually occupy the building to the north. Briefly, the architecture of the two buildings, very similar family of their modern buildings. This is Chase. By the way, the Chase folks are here if there's any questions regarding operations, architecture, how the drive-through gets used, et cetera. They're available for answering questions as well tonight. The Chase Bank, using some of the same kind of familiar materials that we're using in the two-tenant retail building. I'm going to move to that. These are four-sided architecture because of the way these things are sited and the relationship they have to the buildings behind them that are part of Scott's property, as well as to the buildings to the west, the Panera, Goodwill, et cetera, et cetera. It's important to have these be four-sided buildings, which is also part of the reason the request for the additional signage. These are primarily masonry, brick masonry buildings with some call-outs of cementitious siding as well as some EIFS, effectively drive-it, and using the bright awning, which is kind of part of the trade dress for First Watch. So this is the bottom of the front elevation of Cava, the side elevation, the east side of First Watch along the bottom, and at the top are the other 2 elevations, all masonry buildings. I think they're really quite handsome. And really just kind of the improvements along the face of the easternmost building from what it currently is with kind of limited sidewalk, very tight landscaping. That's being expanded in the parking kind of.
So what you see there, right by that little blue call out on the image to the right, those are two drive-in doors that village staff has requested that we terminate their usage. And so you'll see on the site plan, obviously there's no drive-through or driveway leading up to them. So while we're not going to demolish the doors, we are going to extend this or connect the sidewalk
we
and
go
the
back to
landscaping,
the-
so they will not be usable
Oh,
going forward.
well, they're still shown in that, but I got you, okay. I think that's, no, that parking, I'm gonna hand this over to Erickson to speak about parking and site and traffic conversation. But as Scott already, we've already explained, we're well parked for the entire site and in anticipation of other uses eventually consuming some of those buildings. Any questions now, or feel free to. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Steve Corcoran with Erickson Engineering. I'm Director of Traffic Engineering, and I'm located at the 145 Commerce Drive in Grace Lake. And we prepared the traffic studies that were in your packet today. Parking's real simple. You have a code requirement of 199 spaces, and we exceed that by 41 spaces. So there's plenty of parking on the site. Just a real quick summary, with our normal traffic studies, we go out and look at existing conditions around the site, traffic volumes. We make projections of both what the development's going to generate as well as what regional traffic growth is going to occur. And we looked at both the AM, PM peak hour on a typical weekday as well as the Saturday peak hour. In terms of traffic generation, this plan obviously generates significantly less traffic than what you were considering just a few years ago with the apartment complex and mixed use. There was more retail and obviously, significantly more apartments. But so in the morning, the three uses together generate about 72 trips an hour, but that's the total of the ins and the outs. In the PM rush hour, it's 154 ins and outs. And Saturday, it's 272 trips in and out. But please keep in mind, all three of these uses are what we call convenience uses. So a significant number of that traffic's already on the roadway system today. And on their way home, they stop at the bank, stop to get dinner, stop for breakfast, so not all those trips are necessarily new to the system. We are basically using the existing access to those lots. There's two driveways on Linder, and there's the signalized intersection on Toohey. So we're going to maintain those three access points and use them with no changes to the ones proposed on Linder. On Toohey, the north driveway, or the north leg, that's really just a driveway into the site today, is 3 lanes wide, but it's not painted and it's not used that way necessarily on a regular basis. But we're going to basically reconstruct it with one inbound lane from Toohey into the site, and then formalize and create a separate left turn lane and then a through right turn lane outbound. Basically just like you see on the south leg, we're going to replicate that. And we're going to provide a median between the inbound and the outbounds to help separate traffic and more importantly, prevent traffic that's coming in to stop and block traffic at the signal, trying to make the left turn to try to get the front driveway spaces. They'll have to go around the building or to the side. We also looked at, so those are improvements, and then we've basically submitted that to IDOT a few months ago. We're waiting for their comments and going through their permitting process to modify that traffic signal, to modify that north leg, as well as, I think we're going to upgrade the crosswalk painting out there also. We also did analysis for both the Chase Bank and for the Cava drive-through. For Chase Bank, we looked at the parking requirements and demand for a typical bank of that size, and we found that the demand is about 17 vehicles, and we're providing 29 spaces, so there's plenty of spaces on site. And the same thing with their drive-through. They have up to two ATM lanes with the capacity to accommodate 4 vehicles at a time without backing out into the parking aisle, the surrounding circulation system. And again, for most banks of this type, the demand is generally 3 vehicles per lane or less, and so we can accommodate that as shown. And then last, with the Cava drive-through, we also looked at that. Cava drive-through is a little different than like, say, McDonald's or Burger King, where you pull up, you order, you pay at one window, and you go to the next one to pick up. Most of this is gonna be on the pre-ordered and basically pick-up only type of arrangement. So we're not gonna have the times it takes to process someone while they're waiting, sitting there making the food. They're gonna be able on an app or online, order the food, and then go to the drive-through to do pickup. And I'm gonna be available for any more questions.
First question, on the Cava pickup, that requires no stack line, is there a pylon to order from, or it's not even available? Can you order from a pylon for Cava?
I
Or
don't know.
So there is,
It's, again, it's online or an app.
only, so if
Yeah.
you pulled up to the window, try to order, you would not be served. They tell you to pull around and go on your, okay?
Correct.
So there's no need for stacking.
That's right.
Is there stacking at all, like 1 or 2 cars
Based,
anticipated?
based on our conversations with, or with the discussions with Cava, they basically see 2 vehicles stacked at a time, you know.
Stack 5.
We can, we have.
That's what I want to know. You can stack 5, they only
But with the
anticipate.
demand is 2.
That's fine.
When you make a comment, please come up and speak into the microphone so we can pick you up on the record, okay?
Okay, I got it. 5 and,
The
no more than
demand is
2
2.
anticipated, but 5 possible. All
Yeah.
right, different question. How do the 2 restaurants you use 272 as your number for traffic. How do 2 restaurants and a bank survive on 272 movements on a peak Saturday, I think you suggested? That's not enough cars.
Yeah, so,
Maybe there's something I'm not hearing in the 272.
okay, in terms of can they serve that level of traffic?
No, the question is that enough traffic for 2 restaurants and a bank on a Saturday to survive, for the restaurant or the bank to survive? I'm not sure your numbers are right, or I'm hearing them correctly. If
Right,
I had 272 cars in a day, I wouldn't survive.
Well, it's, first of all, this is not in a day.
Yes.
We're
That's-
doing it at the peak hour.
Okay.
That's what when we design access systems, we look at the peak hour
That's,
traffic, so.
I said I didn't hear it right. So
Okay.
it was 272 at a peak hour, and then how many anticipated throughout a Saturday?
I have not calculated that. I mean, there is a calculation, but obviously it's a lot more. Off the top of my head, it'd be, probably 5,000 or 6,000 a day, something like that. I'm probably off a bit, but
That's fine.
That's my
That-
judgment.
I said I didn't hear it correctly.
okay.
And back to the turning movements out of the Linder driveway southbound. You had said that you're configuring them the same way as the northbound on the opposite side of the street. Could you explain that one more time
Well,
about the configuration of the
it's-
driveway exits?
I was referring to the Tui driveway, not the Linder. The Tui driveway that we have right now, like I said, is 3 lanes wide, but we're going to modify it to provide a small median to separate the inbound and outbound traffic. And right now, it's kind of wide enough to have 2 exit lanes, but it's not painted that way. And so we're going to provide the.
Go back to the site plan.
Yeah, we got the site.
Got it. That's the two-way driveway, I see. And that's the median that you anticipate.
Yes, and, and then in addition to adding the left turn lane as a formal left turn lane, currently the traffic signal for southbound traffic does not have a left turn arrow. The northbound does, so
I was gonna
we're
ask about that.
anticipating, we know IDOT's gonna require it, so we're proposing to put in a southbound left turn arrow. So in the future, when there's left turns at both the north and south leg, they can go like, you see at a normal intersection, and then the green through movements will go.
All right, my last question, is there no then outdoor seating for one of the 2 restaurants? There's outdoor seating for one of the 2 restaurants, I understand,
That's my understanding, just for First Watch.
but no outdoor seating for Cava.
It's for both.
Yeah.
Oh.
For both, to be used by both?
On the
Okay.
north, or sorry, on the south side, so the west side of building B, there's a little, area for outdoor seating for Cava, and then on the east side of the eastern suite, right by the sidewalk, there's no.
So First Watch has a larger seating area, is that what I'm,
That is correct.
okay. Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Giuliano?
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that left turn out onto Tui and how that would even be remotely possible without a stoplight. helping anyone turn there with the traffic.
You're talking about the Tui intersection? I
The,
mean-
you said the 3 lanes wide and you're creating a left turn lane out onto Tui, but there's not a stoplight with an arrow, right?
Okay, right now it's 3 lanes wide, but there is no left turn arrow at the existing signal.
Right, so
that-
there's a signal, but there's no arrow.
Yeah, it's just what we call the green ball.
Got it.
So we are adding that left turn arrow, and then we're also at that left turn lane, so that when a car comes there to make a left turn, the signal equipment will detect it and then initiate the left turn arrow when needed.
Got it.
Bank building, ATM only for the drive-through, or is it pneumatic teller plus?
Yeah, it's just ATM, yeah. I'm Jonathan Krisoff. I'm the market director of real estate for Chase Bank. My address is 659 Valley Park Drive in Libertyville, Illinois. Yeah, it's just ATM only. That's pretty much the way all the new branches are going. So in the past, we'd have a teller window there, and it's a manned service, and maybe some conversation. They may be an average of a 3-minute transaction. Now it's an ATM, much quicker, and they're probably less than 30-second transactions. In their
Is there a vault as well? Safety deposit vault?
There's not a safety deposit box. No,
Thanks.
we're not doing those anymore. Yeah.
Thanks.
Can I ask, in follow-up to Commissioner Gavarrado's
Speak in the microphone, please.
sorry, in follow-up to Commissioner Gavarrado's question about the left turn, you mentioned that it would be, like it would sense a car needing to turn and it would change. Do we know how that will affect traffic on Tui? Because like now there'll be more red, I'm assuming the light on Tui will be red more often going east-west.
Not necessarily. It's not going to really dramatically change the green band or green arrow or time for TUI. Because really, right now, the southbound left will basically go when the northbound left is going now. So it's kind of using that same time as far as the east-west. The green band is really controlled by the traffic signals on either side where you have much heavier cross-street traffic.
Okay.
And here we have significantly less compared to the signals in either way. So they're not going to really affect that green band to try to get traffic through the series of traffic signals.
Okay, thank you.
Do you anticipate more, less, or an equal amount of traffic through the Linder pass-through, that entryway that's north of the intersection of Linder and Tui? This seems like a project that we approved some years ago for Bona Beef and Chipotle, Hamburger at that time, where we anticipated a lot of traffic on the side street, in this case Linder, which isn't a major side street as it was over there, off of Tui, and more traffic does use that side street than does use the Tui.
Well,
Driveways.
given the position of these two buildings or 3 tenants, basically with frontage on Tui and direct line of sight with that traffic signal, basically we expect most of it's going a large majority of the traffic is going to use the traffic signal because, unfortunately Linder isn't signalized and, nothing we do is going to change the fact it's hard to make a left turn on Tui anywhere at an unsignalized location. So obviously we're providing that advantage of having a signal there. So we expect, most left turns and most traffic. I mean, there's some synergy that someone can go further west to some of those other uses or go north on Linder, but we expect most of the south traffic to use the Tui entrance.
Okay.
Your current analysis of traffic flow is basically for the project at hand. What about when the other building is brought, online and tenants are there, and should he bring in a highly, intensive usage there? What have you calculated in the future for traffic?
Well, first of all, at this point, we don't know who the future tenant or tenants will be for that use, so we don't know how much traffic that is, but we do have sufficient excess capacity at the traffic signal to accommodate more traffic. So, again, we don't, and that's what we'll have to prove 2 years from now when they come forth with a plan for
Well,
that.
hopefully he brings in a tenant as an intense use, so.
Yeah.
But I just wanna see if, you know, if you've calculated for that future use.
No, we have not calculated specifically for that future use, but it's generally a good level of service at that traffic signal, and so we have capacity to accommodate more traffic coming in and out of the property.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay,
And then we have stormwater.
okay. Good evening.
Good evening. Tim Brown with Erickson Engineering, 145 Commerce Drive, as Steve mentioned earlier. So I'm just going to briefly talk about stormwater management for the site. Again, brief overview. We understand that Village of Skokie engineering review will have to take place and approve anything that we are putting forth and following all of your ordinances. In addition, once they have their review, they will sign off on the permits for the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, the MWRD, for their review, and we will have to follow all of their ordinances as well. So total development area for these three buildings is 2.43 acres with 1.72 acres of impervious area. And the packet that you received had shown roughly 0.36 acres of permeable pavers. But I will be talking to that in the next slide. That's going to be pending MWD review. Right now, following that ordinance, we're currently showing 38,333 cubic feet of detention to be held inside an underground concrete vault. And we've also shown in the permeable paver system just over 6,000 cubic feet of storage to best follow their volume control best management practice system. Now, the reason I had caveated the pavers on the last slide is there is high groundwater table on this site, and per their ordinance, given that this is a combined sewer community, meaning it's storm and sanitary in the same main lines in Tui and Linder, we need 3.5 feet of ground separation, and currently we don't have that, so we will likely be asking for some relief from the MWRD on this portion of the control. And I think that's everything we have, so if you guys have any questions for me.
Any questions on the,
I have one question.
yes,
You said the development area is 2.43 acres, but in fact, the entire site is 6 acres, I think.
Correct.
So this is only stormwater retention for that area that is being redeveloped at the moment.
That's correct, yep.
So you'd have to come back before us again for the redevelopment of further areas on the 6 acre site. Is that also correct?
Yes, and I mean, and I think the 3 acres of that is the building to the east, which is currently in use and continues to plan to be in use and not being touched. You know, the building to the northwest, there's the chance that that gets redeveloped. If and when that happens, we will be providing more stormwater management at that time.
Okay.
thank you. Does that conclude your presentation?
Yes, that concludes our presentation. However, if any questions arise after staff reports, we're happy
Okay.
to answer them as well.
I'll ask the staff to come up and give, you know, present their reports, and then I can have you come back for rebuttal. Thank you. Mike and Jose.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So Jose and I are dividing up the cases tonight. I'll be presenting case 2024-25P subdivision, 2024-28P parking and stacking determination for Chase Bank, and then the special use permit itself for case 2024-29P for the bank with the
Okay.
drive-in facility. Starting with case 2024-25P, I'd like to request that the report be accepted as written.
Granted.
Staff recommends that the petitioner's request to subdivide the 6 existing lots into 4 lots at 5404 to 5418 Toohey Avenue, 7235 Linder Avenue, and 5440 Toohey Avenue, in a B4 Regional Mixed-Use Shopping District be approved. As the petitioner mentioned, this is taking 6 underlying parcels and reconfiguring them into 4 new lots so that each of the buildings, both existing and proposed, will be within their own lot of record. And I mean, that could facilitate for a future sale if one property were to go, be conveyed to somebody else, that will facilitate in that. They'll each have their own tax pin. There are no dedications being requested as part of this. So as far as IDOT review, they're going to be looking at it with just that access point off of Linder Avenue, or I'm sorry, off of Toohey Avenue. There's going to be no indented designated turn lanes, as some parts of Toohey Avenue have if you go further over toward McCormick, where there's like a designated right hand only. That's not going to be included on this site, so there's no additional land needed to accommodate for that. And no dedications at the corner either. The corner is will stay as is with the radius. That's the configuration of the property. Lot 1 being Chase Bank, Lot 2 being the 2 proposed restaurants, Lot 3 being the existing industrial used property with the tile shop at the south end, and Lot 4 being the vacant industrial building at the northwest corner of the property. And so the recommended subdivision conditions, that the Toohey Linder subdivision shall be effective upon its recording by the village in the office of the Recorder of Deeds of Cook County, Illinois. All monuments on the plat must be set no later than 1 year after the date of the recording of the plat. And then the petitioner must submit us an electronic copy of the plat in its approved and finalized form. And then finally, the petitioner must comply with all federal, state statutes, laws, rules, and regulations, and village code and ordinances. Rules and regulations. So that concludes the subdivision, and Jose will present the site plan approval case.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Chairman Luke. For case 2024-26P, site plan approval, staff recommends that the petitioner's request for site plan approval for a 4-lot plan development at 5404, 5418 Toohey Avenue, 5440 Toohey Avenue, and 7235 Linder Avenue in a B4 regional mixed-use shopping zoning district be approved, subject to the recommended conditions and attached proposed positive findings of fact. The proposal includes 2 industrial buildings, a limited service restaurant with a drive-through, a bank with a drive-in facility, shared surface parking, and stormwater detention. The required parking for this 4-lot plan development is 199 off-street parking spaces, and there are 240 proposed off-street parking spaces, including 10 ADA accessible spaces, meeting the parking requirement for the site. The proposed development shall be in accordance with the approved plans and have a minimum of 240 off-street parking spaces, including the 10 handicap mentioned, and a minimum of 2 bicycle parking spaces, as indicated on the architectural site plan dated July 29th, 2024. And the engineering division recommended that changes be made to the existing traffic signal at the intersection of Toohey Avenue and the Eastern Village Crossing Shopping Center entrance. Staff recommends adding a permissive southbound left turn phase at this intersection along with high visibility crosswalks. Toohey Avenue falls under the jurisdiction of the Illinois Department of Transportation and will require separate permits to be reviewed by IDOT for the recommended changes from the engineering division. The petitioner has communicated that they requested IDOT review of the site plan and will incorporate any traffic management, driveway, or intersection improvements that the agency recommends. And staff further recommends that the following items of relief be incorporated in the new site plan. The first one is relief from section 118-1452 to allow parking within the required 25-foot minimum side yard in a B4 zoning district. And the second item of relief is from section 82-28B1C to provide an additional wall sign on a facade not abutting a street where an occupant abuts two or more streets, and to provide more than one wall sign for each occupant in the development. And for the recommended conditions, the first additional recommended condition from staff would be, prior to the issuance of building permits, the petitioner shall submit to the planning division of the Community Development Department confirmation from IDOT and confirmation of MWRD approval. And additionally, the engineering division is requesting that the petitioner submit revised plans to the village when IDOT and MWRD permits are approved. And number two, prior to the hearing before the Board of Trustees, the petitioner must submit a revised architectural site plan to show the location of trash receptacles near outdoor dining areas and the location of bicycle parking spaces on site. And these are the proposed finding of facts. And for case 2024-27P, special use permit, staff recommends that the petitioner's request for a special use permit for a limited service restaurant with drive-through for Cava at 5442 2 Avenue in a B4 regional mixed-use shopping zoning district be approved, subject to the recommended conditions and the attached positive findings of fact. And like the petitioner mentioned, Cava is a Mediterranean fast casual restaurant chain with locations across the United States. Cava will occupy the 2,500 square foot tenant space on the west side of Building B and will include a drive-through lane on the west side. The proposed drive-through will function for the picking up of mobile orders only, and the stacking capacity of the drive-through lane is about 5 vehicles. Using the ITE trip generation manual projections, the peak queue will be about 4 vehicles during peak time, which is under the stacking length of 5 vehicles. The average queue is 2 vehicles at a time with an average service of 2 minutes, and staff supports this analysis and the drive-through proposal. And the additional recommended conditions from staff include: 1, the drive-through lane shall function for the picking up of mobile food orders only. Number 2, the petitioner shall implement any necessary operational improvements to ensure that stacking of vehicles within the drive-through lane will be contained on site and not impede or obstruct pedestrian or vehicular movements. And the last recommended condition from staff is a drive-through facility shall have at least 1 litter refuse disposal container at its exit at a location determined by the health department.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll present the final 2 cases for Chase Bank. Case 2024-28B is the parking and stacking determination for the Chase Bank location. And staff recommends that the Plan Commission determine the off-street parking requirement for the proposed Chase Bank at 5452 Avenue to be 12 vehicle parking spaces and 1 bicycle parking space. And the stacking requirement for each of the 2 ATMs to be 4 vehicles. Staff concurs with Engineering Division's parking and stacking analysis for the proposed use. And for case 2024-29P, special use permit. Staff recommends that the petitioner's request for a special use permit for a drive-in facility at a bank in an B4 regional mixed-use shopping zoning district, and any relief that may be discovered during the review of this case be approved, subject to the attached positive findings of fact. Engineering staff has determined that the proposed use meets its vehicular and bicycle parking requirements and ATM drive-in lane stacking requirements in companion case 2024-28P. This is a floor plan of the proposed bank. And these are the renderings, elevations. The recommended conditions for the special use permit. The petitioner shall implement any necessary operational improvements to ensure that stacking of vehicles within the drive-through lane will be contained on site and not impede or obstruct pedestrian or vehicular movements. The owner of the subject property and its tenant shall ensure that employees park on the subject property. The petitioner shall submit to the planning division electronic files of the site landscape and floor plans in their approved and finalized form. And the proposed positive findings of fact. And that concludes our presentation.
Okay, question, where are the trash bins located for First Watch and Kava?
Back up here.
I believe that was one of the conditions that the petitioner must revise plans and show where trash receptacles will be located. So they are not shown on the plan.
Okay, that's, because I didn't see it.
Yeah.
So they'll have, well, is there adequate space there for it?
Yeah, in the outdoor dining area, and staff also recommends adding one at the exit of the drive-through as well.
No, I'm talking about, the trash bins, the big dumpsters.
Oh, that will be located just north of Building B.
Okay.
In this little section here.
Yeah, it's not, I guess those aren't defined, so if you could define those,
Yeah, these two.
okay.
This is where the trash receptacles will
Okay.
be located.
Any questions of the staff on the all cases? No?
I just wanted to
Yes.
point out, I think, Jose, I can't recall if you mentioned it. I think the one condition we wanted to revise is that the minimum number of parking spaces is what's required, not what is being provided. So there's a different number. Did you note that?
I did not mention that.
Okay, so why don't you just state how many are required versus how many are going to be provided? And we're gonna recommend that the conditions state what is required, not what is being provided, because they're providing in excess of what is allowed. So we don't wanna overburden them for future development with a condition that's a minimum that is overparked.
Yes, so the required number of parking spaces is 199, and they provide 240. So we'll be making that change to that condition.
One staff question, but I think it's simple. Presuming that these uses stay, but Building D is demolished and a new use is put there, they have constricted themselves, it seems, to their own parking, both requirements and possible parking, so that they then, when they come back with a new proposal for Building D or the redo of the tile building, they then are stuck with the required spaces that they've already complied with now. Isn't that correct? And
Yes.
so they then can't come in with a higher, possibly better use for those other sites, which would then require more parking than they're able to provide.
Under site plan approval, they'll be able to share the spaces across the entire property.
Ah.
So they'll have the
That is-
ability of those excess spaces to apply to a higher.
That answers the question.
We also have to, we don't have a complete crystal ball. We don't know what those uses will generate in terms of what the required parking would be.
I didn't want us to approve one thing and then restrict them in what they could do in the future, but as you said, there's a cross-use, that's great.
Okay, any other questions? Gentlemen, thank you very much. Counselor, could you please step up? Okay, you've heard the staff report, you've heard comments of the plan commission. Do you and your client have any objections to the requirements as specified by staff, or do you have any rebuttal or questions or comments?
No, as revised, we are prepared to accept the conditions.
So your client are fully compliant with the recommendations?
Yes,
Good, thank you.
thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience who wish to come up and have a comment or a question about cases at hand tonight? Okay. No, I mean, I'm talking about all 5 cases. No one? Okay.
General comment?
That's at the end.
Oh, the end then, after the vote?
No, this is Yeah, we'll do that, yeah. So, without further ado, unless there is a comment, I'll call for motions. And we have to do a motion and vote on each case, plus there's a relief for the site plan approval that we have to vote on. So, first case tonight is case 2024-25P, the subdivision. Motion to approve. Commissioner Giovanni, thank you. And Commissioner Franklin seconds. Call for the vote. Commissioner Speyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Berman,
Aye.
Commissioner Franklin,
Aye.
Commissioner Giovanni,
Aye.
Commissioner Matei,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye. In case 2024-26P, this is the site plan approval as presented by staff. Do I have a motion to approve? Do I have a-
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
Commissioner Berman, Commissioner Speyer. Call for the vote. Commissioner Speyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Berman,
Aye.
Commissioner Franklin,
Aye.
Commissioner Giovanni,
Aye.
Commissioner Berman, no, he's absent, I'm sorry, Commissioner Matei,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye. Thank you. And on the site plan, there is relief on two items, I believe, for the parking and for the signage. Is that correct? Yes. So do I have a motion
Motion.
to approve the relief? Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Franklin, thank you. Commissioner Speyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Berman,
Aye.
Commissioner Franklin,
Aye.
Commissioner Giovanni,
Aye.
Commissioner Matei,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye. Okay, that's for the relief. Thank you. Case 2024-27P, special use permit for a restaurant drive-through at the subject site. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So move, Commissioner Berman.
To approve?
To approve. As presented.
Approve?
Yep.
Do I have a second? Commissioner Matei, thank you. Call for the vote. Commissioner Speyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Berman,
Aye.
Commissioner Franklin,
Aye.
Commissioner Giovanni,
Aye.
Commissioner Matei,
Aye.
now vote aye. Okay, moving right along here, folks. Case 2024-28P, parking and stacking for the Chase Bank. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Giovanni,
Second.
and second, Commissioner Franklin, thank you. Call for the vote, Commissioner Speyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Berman,
Aye.
Commissioner Franklin,
Aye.
Commissioner Giovanni,
Aye.
Commissioner Matei,
Aye.
now vote aye. Final case is case 2024-29P, special use for the permit, special use permit for a Chase Bank drive-through. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion to approve?
Yes.
Thank you. Do a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Berman, thank you. Call for the vote. Commissioner Speyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Berman,
Aye.
Commissioner Franklin,
Aye.
Commissioner Giovanni,
Aye.
Commissioner Matei,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye. And these cases still need to go before the Board of Trustees for final approval. They meet on the first and third Monday of each month, and you will be notified when these cases will go before the Board of Trustees. If you have any other questions, feel free to call the village staff and with any questions. And good luck to your second project at the site. Thank you very much for choosing Skokie again, and I wish you a lot of luck. Okay, thank you very much. Next, there's no new business, or we finished new business. We have public comments. Anybody out there with a public comment? Okay, no comment? Any communications from the staff? None at this time. Then move for adjournment rather? Okay. Okay, so moved. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.